While I was busy with my work as a materials manager, I got an email that really shook me up. It was from Michael, and he calmly told me that he was in love with someone else and wanted to start a new life with her. He also said he was taking the fancy car we bought together, even though it was under my name. I begged him to think it over, but he didn't listen. Then he disappeared with his new girlfriend, leaving me with a big debt. It was a total shock for me, Ava, at 33, and our little family of 3, including our smart 12-year-old son, John. John's cleverness was evident from an early age, as he would have deep conversations and give thoughtful opinions on articles, which was quite different from Michael's inconsistent behavior. Even though Michael hadn't held down a stable job, he somehow managed to keep money coming in for the past 4 years, encouraging us to make lasting memories as a family. This led us to buy a camper van worth $388,000. However, because Michael couldn't meet the financial requirements, I ended up responsible for the loan. On the day we were supposed to get the camper, Michael sent an email saying he was taking it, leaving me to deal with the financial burden alone. When I confronted him, he confessed to having an affair and said he was leaving to start a new life. He even mentioned divorce, something we had argued about before. But now it was really happening, catching me completely off guard. Finding out about Michael's betrayal and then him disappearing, leaving me with a huge debt and no way to contact him, was devastating. I tried to reach him, but it was useless, and he never sent the divorce papers he promised. On top of that, we were still dealing with the $38,000 loan. In the midst of all this chaos, John's understanding of the situation made it clear just how much Michael leaving had affected us emotionally and financially. This wasn't just a tough situation, it was a harsh wake-up call to reality. I had to figure out how to move forward after being betrayed, all while making sure John was okay and dealing with this overwhelming debt. After dinner, John came up to me looking worried, his young face showing concern. "Mom, what's up? You haven't been eating much lately. Are you okay?" His worry made me stop for a moment. "Oh, I'm probably just a bit tired," I said, trying to brush it off. But John, wise beyond his years, said, they say when people lie, they look up to the right. Lying isn't good, Mom." Then he cautiously asked about Dad's absence, saying Dad hasn't been around for 2 days. Did something happen? His directness surprised me, and I felt like I had to tell him the truth about what was going on with our family. John reacted maturely, almost like he knew something was wrong even before I said it. He seemed to understand the situation with a wisdom beyond his age. Even though I could tell he was upset, I couldn't hide my stress in the following days. At work, during a training session, I suddenly couldn't stand up. I was overwhelmed by emotions and collapsed, feeling like I was being swallowed by darkness, while my colleagues expressed their concern around me. Waking up in a hospital, I was told I needed some serious medical tests. It hit me hard. Lying in that bed, hooked up to an IV, I couldn't help but cry. When John rushed in, looking really worried, I had to quickly wipe away my tears. He was scared, asking, "You're gonna be okay, right? You're not gonna die?" I reassured him that I was going to be fine, touched by his bravery and how grown-up he was acting even though he was just a kid. His concern when he mentioned his teacher calling about me being in the hospital reminded me of how strong I needed to be. Even though the doctors told me it was worse than I thought, having John by my side gave me a new determination to get better. I knew I had to recover, not just for myself, but for both of us. Going through all of this showed how strong our connection was and how we could face anything together with bravery and determination. When the doctor confirmed my worst fears and said I needed urgent surgery for a serious illness, it was like everything became a blur of medical appointments and treatments. As I recovered, a month had passed since Michael left. When I got home, I found a letter in the mailbox that made my heart sink. A demand for the car loan payment, which was supposed to be automatically deducted. The shock only got worse when I checked our bank account. What used to have $445,000 now had just $29.90 left. Michael had taken almost all our savings, leaving us in a really tough spot without the camper van. I felt even more hopeless knowing I couldn't sell it to make up for the money we lost. Seeing how upset I was, John stepped in to help in the kindest way possible, suggesting he could start delivering newspapers and look for online jobs to pitch in. His willingness to take action was like a ray of hope, pulling me out of my sadness. Now's not the time to give up, I told myself, feeling encouraged by his positivity. Together, we came up with a plan to get the camper van back, using a clever idea. We could track its location using the GPS on John's phone, the one we got for him. It was a plan born out of necessity and John's smart suggestion, giving us a new direction. It was something we hadn't thought of before, offering a glimmer of hope in what felt like a hopeless situation. With the GPS app, we could keep an eye on where the van was, a crucial first step in our mission to get back what was rightfully ours. Going through this tough time had not only shown how strong we were, but had also brought us closer together, all working toward the same goal. Worried about Michael possibly getting away with excuses, John's confidence was like a shining light. "Don't worry, Mom. I've got it covered," he said with a smile that put me at ease. I was amazed by his forward thinking and independence. Even when I was vulnerable and in the hospital worrying about everything, John had come up with a plan that was so smart. I couldn't have thought of it myself. His initiative showed not only how clever he was, but also how well he understood what was going on. Even with Michael's new relationship, feeling empowered by John's clever plan, we decided to confront Michael, turning our tough situation into a learning experience for him. "We're stronger when we're together, and now it's time for us to take action," I said confidently, feeling like nothing could stop us with my son by my side. Just 3 days later, I got a call from Michael, sounding desperate for help with a police investigation related to our report of the stolen van. Without wasting any time, John and I rushed to Forest Park, where we found Michael looking stressed and surrounded by police officers. When we got there, I asked for a private chat and sent the police away for a moment. Michael seemed uncomfortable under our gaze and the stares of others around us. He quickly invited us into the van, where his girlfriend was sitting defiantly. But her presence didn't matter as much as what we needed to discuss. "Why are the police involved, Michael?" I asked, genuinely confused. "It's simple," I explained. "The van, which you thought you could just take, was reported stolen. It's under my name, not yours." Michael's belief that marital disagreements were exempt from the law was shattered by the reality of his actions. This wasn't just about getting back what was rightfully ours, it was also about showing Michael the consequences of his betrayal and recklessness. Our careful planning and John's smart thinking had completely changed the situation, proving that even when someone betrays you, staying strong and united can lead to justice and empowerment. Michael thought he could get away with breaking the law because he thought marital issues were outside its reach, but he was wrong. "Remember the divorce you wanted? That means we're not legally connected anymore, so you can't use a car that's registered in my name without my permission," I explained, correcting his misunderstanding. John had figured this out too, showing wisdom beyond his years. Michael tried to say he was just borrowing the car, but I wasn't buying it. "Is that right?" "Well, I need my car back now, please," I said, holding out my hand for the keys. Michael reluctantly handed them over, realizing he couldn't argue with the truth. Then John, a mix of curious and disappointed, asked, "Why did you choose her over us?" Michael stumbled over his words, while his girlfriend Sophia tried to justify their affair. But John's serious tone shut her down, insisting on an answer from Michael. When pressed, Michael reluctantly explained how their affair started and grew, leading to his decision to leave with Sophia, who was now pregnant, and the van. "Why take the van?" I asked, already having an idea thanks to the GPS app we had on both our phones for safety after John's hiking incident. This tool unexpectedly gave us updates on Michael's location, showing us he was misusing the van. This was a big moment where our preparation and John's clever thinking made a difference, showing the importance of taking responsibility and the power of technology in uncovering the truth. Finding out that John had faked getting lost on our hike just to get a cell phone amazed me. His actions, driven by a feeling that something wasn't right with his dad, led to a plan to keep track of Michael. "You're quite the strategist," I said, impressed by his cleverness. I was amazed, even though I joked about how John seemed to predict what would happen. When confronted with John's honest words, Michael couldn't say anything to defend himself. On the other hand, John's grown-up way of speaking and standing firm in what he believed made me feel proud as a mother and determined to make things right. The fact that Michael had taken $45,000 from our account, money I had saved before we got married and during all the times when Michael couldn't keep a steady job, was especially upsetting. Realizing that divorcing Michael was a relief showed just how much he had betrayed me. Even though Michael tried to make it seem like taking the van and the money was just a small argument between us, I was determined to take legal action. "Should I call the police now?" John asked, ready to dial the number on his phone and bring in the authorities. Sophia, who had been listening in, panicked as things escalated, especially with her own parents arriving, angry and ready to confront her for her part in everything. When she tried to leave the van, her parents stopped her, yelling loudly. "I'm sorry, please don't be mad," she begged, hoping for some sympathy that wasn't there. I had taken the step to tell her parents about what was going on, prompted by John's visit to Michael's workplace while I was in the hospital. He had told them what was happening with our family, leading to an investigation that brought Sophia's parents into the picture. This confrontation wasn't just about exposing Michael and Sophia's lies. It showed how far John and I would go to make things right and protect our family. It proved how important it is to take responsibility for your actions and to stand up to those who try to deceive you, no matter how complicated things get. I sat down with Michael and recounted the whole messy story to them, explaining how we ended up in this situation. Things took a surprising turn when I questioned the timing of Sophia's pregnancy, pointing out some inconsistencies that suggested the baby might not be Michael's. Michael was shocked by this revelation, staring in disbelief as the truth sank in. Sophia tried to deflect, but tensions rose, leading to a heated argument between her and Michael as they each tried to blame the other. Their fight showed just how deep their deception went, and everyone there saw it. As the night went on and the police arrived with their flashing lights, Michael went back and forth between denying everything and admitting he was wrong, begging for forgiveness and promising to change. But John made a wise observation that real change is rare for those who keep making mistakes on purpose. I was determined to make sure Michael faced the consequences of his actions, showing that we wouldn't let him get away with what he'd done. We were committed to handling the aftermath with dignity and making sure justice was served. The $45,000 loss was just the beginning. Michael agreed to pay child support each month, and his wages were garnished to cover these expenses and others. It was the start of a long journey to make things right. Selling the camper van not only got rid of the loan, but also symbolized leaving the past behind, allowing me to focus on healing and the future. As time passed, I regained my strength, thanks to my renewed dedication to my job and the constant support from John. He took on household chores with a maturity beyond his years. Despite the challenges, this experience strengthened our determination to move forward. We were inspired by the lessons learned and the justice served. And through it all, we made sure John knew that integrity and resilience are important qualities to have when facing tough times, so he could keep chasing his dreams with confidence. Our establishment caters exclusively to celebrities. If you're not affluent, we kindly ask that you refrain from visiting. Please vacate the premises, the manager asserted with little emotion. The following day, I couldn't shake the lingering sense of prejudice toward appearances prevalent in five-star accommodations. Yet the manager remained oblivious. He failed to grasp the influence wielded by my in-laws and the discontent he would face in the days to come. I'm Maria, 32, a homemaker without children. Stephen, my husband, and I crossed paths during my part-time stint at a supermarket. His serene and refined demeanor convinced me of his inherent decency early in our courtship. However, my astonishment peaked during a visit to his parents' abode for wedding discussions. The residence resembled more of a sprawling campus than a home, complete with imposing gates and towering walls that concealed its entirety from view. Beyond the gate, an unexpected spectacle greeted me. At the far end of the lengthy stone pathway stood a breathtaking country estate, reminiscent of a lavish villa. A meticulously maintained garden sprawled beside the grand structure, suggesting the handiwork of a skilled gardener. My eyes widened further as I caught sight of what seemed to be a pristine swimming pool and tennis courts nestled beyond. A wave of disbelief washed over me as I questioned the purpose of my visit. Stephen's dual role as a college student and part-time convenience store worker was indeed remarkable. How he managed such a balancing act puzzled me. According to Stephen, his family tree boasted a lineage of corporate titans, his father, mother, sister, and himself all holding esteemed positions as presidents of top companies. Unlike some celebrities who inherit family enterprises, Stephen's family forged their own paths as accomplished entrepreneurs. Following suit, Stephen treated the same path, utilizing his part-time earnings to cover tuition costs and kickstarting his own entrepreneurial venture. It was through this unique circumstance that our paths crossed, and now he tirelessly endeavors to expand his fledgling business. In my family, my father holds a regular job at a company, my mother is a homemaker, and my brother follows suit with his own corporate career. Doubts crept in, making me ponder whether I could truly fit into Stephen's world as his wife. However, Stephen remained unperturbed. "What drew me to you was your warmth and joy. You're the one I envisioned sharing my life with," he reassured me. I made the decision to place my trust in Stephen and stand by his side. Yet concerns loomed regarding my prospective in-laws. Would they view me, a commoner, as an adequate match for their son? Anxiety gnawed at my heart, fearing I might disappoint them. However, upon meeting Stephen's family, my apprehensions melted away. They embraced me with genuine warmth and hospitality, expressing delight that Stephen had finally brought a woman home. My father-in-law, in particular, seemed to take a liking to me. "Maria, you possess a rare beauty, inside and out. Your upbringing shines through in your demeanor. Stephen's choice is impeccable," my mother-in-law praised. Both my mother-in-law and sister-in-law exuded warmth and kindness, and by the time our visit concluded, we had formed a genuine bond, evolving into good friends. Likewise, my own parents found solace in Stephen's gentle and composed nature, swiftly granting their blessing for our union. With their approval secured, our marriage proceeded seamlessly. As Stephen embarked on his entrepreneurial journey, he expressed his desire for me to leave my job and embrace the role of a full-time homemaker to support him. We settled into an apartment close to my in-laws' residence, relishing the early days of our marriage. Occasionally, we'd gather for dinner parties and barbecues at my in-laws, who, despite their hectic schedules, embrace Annie, our live-in nanny, as part of the family. Witnessing their genuine kindness left a lasting impression on me, reassuring me that I could be myself without feeling intimidated by their celebrity status. As 3 months elapsed since our nuptials, we decided to host a grand celebration for my father-in-law's 60th birthday. Wanting to reciprocate the care and hospitality shown to us during our wedding, Stephen and I took charge of arranging the festivities. With Stephen preoccupied with work, the responsibility fell on my shoulders, a decision we reached after discussing it together. "Your father adores you, Maria, so you have the freedom to choose. I believe he'll be happy anywhere and with anything," Stephen assured me. Accepting that I had the liberty to make my own decisions proved to be the most challenging aspect. Seeking guidance, I confided in a friend who suggested opting for a top-tier hotel, especially since my father held such esteemed status. Following her advice, I discovered a luxurious 5-star hotel conveniently located near my parents' residence. Despite my lack of experience with upscale accommodations, I assumed it would meet the standards. Nevertheless, I resolved to visit and judge for myself. I opted to visit the hotel first, feeling a bit apprehensive about going alone. To ease my nerves, I invited my best friend from high school to join me. Upon making a reservation for lunch, I was immediately struck by the restaurant's impeccable and gracious service. Clear signs of a 5-star establishment, I thought. Dressed in a smart and elegant ensemble, a white blouse paired with a sleek black skirt and pumps, I felt ready to step into the realm of luxury. My friend, too, looked lovely in her floral dress and stylish heeled boots. As we made our way to the hotel, excitement bubbled within me, akin to the anticipation of embarking on a thrilling journey. Little did I know, the experience awaiting us would exceed all expectations. I drove to the hotel in my trusty car, a faithful companion since my single days, and followed the directions to the parking lot situated at the roundabout near the entrance. The attendant who guided me was exceptionally courteous and helpful. However, as I stepped into the lobby, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. A sharply dressed man caught my attention. His stern gaze seemed to pierce through me. Though he bore the demeanor of a hotel staff member, neither my friend nor I recognized him. His impeccable suit and poised posture exuded an air of authority. I couldn't fathom why he was scrutinizing us so intently. Descending into the underground parking lot, I couldn't help but feel a twinge of self-consciousness as my modest car stood amidst the lineup of sleek black luxury vehicles. Observing some guests being chauffeured in with doors ceremoniously opened for them only added to my unease. Tempted to hail a cab, I hesitated, knowing it would only delay my arrival when I was already so close to home. As my friend and I entered the hotel, the individual who had been observing us approached. "You seem a bit out of place here. Can I be of assistance?" he asked, his tone polite yet carrying a hint of condescension that didn't sit well with me. "I have a lunch reservation here." "What do you mean by unsuitable for the hotel?" I questioned, feeling the surge of indignation. The taller man continued, his gaze directed down at me. "Your choice of vehicle and attire don't quite align with the usual clientele of this establishment," he remarked, punctuating his statement with a laugh. My cheeks flushed with embarrassment, appalled by his snobbish demeanor. Unable to meet his gaze, my friend averted her eyes. Despite feeling the sting of embarrassment, I refused to let it drive me away. Though typically reserved, I possess a resilient spirit, and I was determined to confront the individual responsible for these disparaging remarks. I needed to know who dared to speak about me in such a derogatory manner. "Are you a member of the hotel staff?" I inquired sharply, my eyes fixed on him. "I happen to be the manager of this establishment," came his haughty reply. Privately, I couldn't help but find his emphasis on the hotel's prestigious rating rather absurd, though I chose to keep this observation to myself. His response only served to aggravate me further. "Does this hotel judge its patrons based on their cars and appearance, adjusting its treatment accordingly?" I challenged, refusing to back down. The manager's disdainful sniff and snort in response only fueled my determination. The clientele should align with the hotel's esteemed reputation. Maintaining that standard ensures guests feel comfortable and at ease, he asserted. His words grated on my nerves. "Are you implying that we're somehow tarnishing the reputation of your establishment?" I retorted, feeling my irritation mounting. The manager clicked his tongue disapprovingly. I couldn't help but feel sorry for my friend, who I had invited along. The thought of canceling our reservation and leaving crossed my mind. Just as I was considering our next move, an elderly hotel staff member approached me and politely inquired, "Ma'am?" Upon learning of my lunch reservation, he respectfully acknowledged the manager with a bow and said, "Allow me to escort you to the restaurant." With a sense of relief, I followed him to our destination, noticing the manager's lingering bitter glare. Unlike the manager's demeanor, the hotel employee who guided us was courteous and welcoming. "You've traveled quite a distance, and I apologize for any discomfort you may have experienced. We're renowned for our exquisite cuisine, and I trust you'll have a delightful stay," the young manager offered apologetically. I couldn't help but wonder how such a youthful figure found himself at the helm of such a prestigious establishment. He explained that the hotel's previous owner had retired, passing the reins to his younger brother, with his son assuming the role of manager. Despite his impressive academic background from a top-tier university, the manager lacked prior experience in hospitality and struggled to uphold the hotel's esteemed standards. It's disheartening to witness even long-standing patrons being overlooked and compelled to depart over minor matters, the elderly employee lamented solemnly. "I've dedicated my life to this hotel, only to find myself deemed expendable in its quest for rejuvenation. I'll be bidding farewell at the month's end. It seems the hotel no longer values the loyalty of its devoted staff, instrumental in achieving its coveted 5-star status." As the elderly hotelier had assured, the cuisine surpassed all expectations, leaving my palate thoroughly satisfied. The head chef, who greeted us personally, exuded skill and experience, his age mirroring that of the hotelier. Yet a nagging concern lingered: would he too fall victim to the hotel's restructuring? "People find joy in satiation," I remarked to my best friend as we exited the restaurant, our faces radiant with contentment. Just as we prepared to depart, the manager approached us once more. "I eagerly anticipate your return to our restaurant," he remarked, his persistence unwavering. Though our decision to leave remained unchanged, the manager's resolve remained steadfast. "I'm sorry, but individuals like yourself detract from the dignity of this establishment. This is a hotel frequented by celebrities, not suitable for those of lesser means. Kindly vacate the premises immediately," the manager declared bluntly, leaving me too stunned to protest. Though the hotel itself was undeniably elegant, the manager's rudeness and discourtesy left a sour taste in my mouth, prompting me to reconsider hosting my father-in-law's birthday celebration there. Surely, there must be a more hospitable venue nearby. When I recounted the incident to my in-laws, they listened intently. However, upon learning the name of the hotel, they exchanged puzzled glances. "Why do we visit this hotel?" I'm curious to experience such a renowned establishment, my father-in-law suggested. Much to my bewilderment, I couldn't comprehend his eagerness to return to a place where I had encountered such disrespect. Let's dress casually, my father-in-law proposed, urging everyone to do the same. He instructed us to proceed ahead while he would join us later. From the moment we stepped into the roundabout, the manager's piercing gaze never wavered. The lobby was bustling with activity. Guests lounged on plush sofas or sipped coffee, creating an atmosphere akin to a bustling event venue. As we settled onto a sofa beneath a grand chandelier, awaiting my father-in-law's arrival, the manager stormed in, his expression thunderous. You've returned, evidently without learning your lesson. You never seem to grasp it, do you? Arriving in a minivan, utterly disgraceful, he bellowed, his tone dripping with disdain. Undeterred by his haughty demeanor, I countered, We're here to celebrate my father-in-law's birthday. I made a reservation and there was no mention of vehicle type. What's the issue? Unfazed, the manager continued his tirade. Your attire screams unsophisticated. You belong in one of those seedy roadside inns. He spat, his words drawing shocked glances from the other guests. This hotel should be open to everyone, shouldn't it? We're prepared to pay. It's absurd to judge guests based on arbitrary criteria. Treating guests this way is utterly appalling, I declared, garnering nods of agreement from those nearby. The customer should always come first, shouldn't they? Selecting guests based on appearance is simply unacceptable. The manager, visibly flustered, flushed red and retorted, We are a luxury establishment. We cater to celebrities. If you're not affluent, kindly depart. In that case, let's all head home, my father-in-law suggested. His words prompted many in the lobby to rise and depart, murmuring their discontent. I won't be returning, and I certainly won't recommend this place to anyone, they vowed as they attempted to leave, prompting a heated exchange with the rushing employees. In reality, the individuals in the lobby were all acquaintances of my father-in-law who had gathered at his behest. His slight delay was due to his efforts in rallying them together. My father-in-law had been a familiar face at the hotel since the days of its previous management. In the early years, he often dropped by in his work attire, yet he was captivated by the hotel's consistent dedication to treating every guest with the utmost respect. His company had a tradition of hosting extravagant parties at the venue annually, becoming deeply intertwined with its history. He introduced the hotel to his family, who also frequented its halls. Given the collective stature as company presidents, the frequency of these gatherings was notable. My mother-in-law utilized the hotel for client entertaining, while my sister-in-law conducted executive training sessions within its walls. Even my husband's company held celebratory events there, underscoring the significance of each family member's company to the hotel's success. Then, a voice broke the tension, begging for forgiveness. To our astonishment, it was none other than the hotel president, the manager's father, kneeling before us. The elderly hotelier, recognizing my father-in-law, had urgently contacted the president. With a profound apology, he chastised his son for his egregious behavior, compelling the manager to kneel alongside him in remorse. I deeply regret the misunderstanding, sir. Had I known your esteemed position, the treatment would have been different. It was inappropriate to base service on financial status. The manager attempted to justify himself, but his excuses fell flat. There's no need for apologies to me. It was my daughter-in-law who was mistreated by your manager, a woman as dear to me as my own daughter. Remember who the hotel truly serves. I have fond memories of your predecessor, but it's time to part ways, my father-in-law asserted firmly, signaling our departure from the five-star establishment. Leaving behind the pretentious atmosphere, we relocated to a beloved diner frequented by my family. With its cozy private rooms and welcoming ambience, the diner was the perfect setting to celebrate my father-in-law's milestone birthday. The delightful food and warm atmosphere brought joy to my in-laws, marking a memorable conclusion to the day. At my father-in-law's suggestion, we extended the celebration to include my parents, transforming the occasion into a lively and joyous affair. My husband and I gladly footed the bill for the party at the familiar diner. It was a modest expense for us, given the casual nature of the establishment. Once again, I reflected on our commitment to remain grounded, refusing to let wealth cloud our values or lead to misconceptions. As time passed, rumors circulated that the manager had been dismissed and demoted to the role of a cleaner. Although the specifics remained uncertain, It was clear that the hotel's reputation had suffered irreparable damage. 2 years later, the once illustrious establishment shuttered its doors for good, a cautionary tale of the consequences of arrogance and elitism. The next time I drove past the hotel, the sight was dismal. The glass windows shattered, furniture stacked haphazardly in front of the entrance, turning it into a desolate wasteland. The legacy of the hotel, once steeped in tradition, lay in ruins, all due to the actions of one misguided individual. Despite my father-in-law's humble upbringing, we share a strong bond, and I cherish the time spent with him, my husband, and the rest of my in-laws. As news of my pregnancy spreads, anticipation fills the air, with everyone eagerly awaiting the arrival of the newest addition to the family. Story 1. I'm a male teen currently working part-time and have my own income. I'm also the oldest in my family. I have 4 younger siblings, 2 big brothers who are on the spectrum, and 2 sisters who are biologically my cousins and were adopted by my parents as babies. Both have Down syndrome. All 4 of my younger siblings have significant challenges and health issues. Over the years, it has drained my parents' resources and left very little for anything fun. Only when I started working 2 years ago could I afford to treat myself occasionally. Sometimes it's my favorite gummies, sometimes I save up to buy something. I bought myself a laptop earlier this year with my money because I needed something, especially with school and everything, and using the family computer doesn't work as much now because Dad works later in the day than he used to. For the last few months, I've paid for certain groceries for myself since there are so many different meals made in our house, and I usually end up with stuff I didn't enjoy. I decided to occasionally buy stuff so I could make myself something I'd like, and it was one less person for my mom to prepare food for. My brothers both have safe foods, and my sisters are also bad eaters who have limitations due to allergies and not enjoying the taste of many things. I know my parents have been struggling to afford all the safe foods, allergen foods, and stuff for themselves. A while ago, my dad asked if I could buy some family groceries for everyone, and I sat and asked him if I could get more of what I like for everyone, and he said no. He and my mom don't like the foods I eat, and my siblings couldn't and wouldn't eat them. He said just get the usual stuff, and I can live off stuff I don't love. I told him I didn't want to do that I was trying to enjoy food more, and it was one less person for them to buy for. We compromised, and I would buy myself groceries on the time instead of sometimes. Then a couple of weeks ago, some food ran out, and my dad had to use his credit card to buy a few extra groceries. I was the only person who didn't run out that week. My parents were angry. They asked why I took care of myself so much but wouldn't help out the family. Mom said it's exhausting having to feed so many different people with different needs, and I could at least buy food for my siblings if I can't give a crap about her and Dad. They said I was selfish, and I should be thinking of my family over just me. My parents said I would probably let everyone starve before I help out, and then they accused me of resenting them for adopting my sisters and adding more additional needs kids to our family. But they said that's what family does, and I should be ashamed. They also said I should never have bought the laptop and could have helped out more financially without it. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Your parents are legally obligated to provide for you until you're 18, and they're not doing that. It sounds as though they were doing okay until you started earning money. You're already helping them out by paying for your own food. You've also provided your own laptop that your parents didn't have to pay for. When someone is drowning, the solution is not to drown with them, it's to find lifelines. There are programs that can help them. Your parents need to seek those out. Oh, you're not a parent. Don't let them turn you into one. The fact that you have to work outside your home just to feed yourself indicates that they're failing to meet your needs. It seems your needs are coming dead last. If they want more money, they can get a job that pays better or work more hours. If you start buying groceries, you will never get out of this. Even if you move out, they'll still ask for your help. Oh, sweetie, start saving your money so you can move out. Your parents bit off more than they can chew and need to reach out to the countless resources that are available to them. The best place to start is the caseworker. If I were you, I'd contact BCF myself and explain exactly what you said. Your family is struggling to make ends meet after adopting and pressuring you to provide. They won't be in trouble. They'll be provided resources and help for all of you. Also, you may want to hide your laptop. They sound very resentful about it, and I don't know what type of people they are. It's understandable that your family is struggling, but it isn't your struggle. Good luck. I have a nanny who comes to look after my little ones, a toddler and preschooler 3 times a week. She arrives in the morning when I leave for work at 8 o'clock a.m. and leaves with my husband or me when we get home at 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock p.m. She's been quite good with the kids, which is fine. But the only problem is she's making herself at home too much. The first problem is that she'll randomly leave things at our place overnight, such as a coat or car seat, etc. She'll also sometimes put small bits of food in our fridge and leave it overnight when she's coming the next day. But what irks me the most is the dogs. She has 2 dogs. One is a chocolate Labrador and the other is a Great Dane. I really don't like dogs. Originally, I said she couldn't bring them with her when she asked. One day, she had to bring them with her because her garden was being landscaped, so I let her but told her to keep them outside. Well, since then, she just kept bringing them. I didn't say anything since it wasn't that big of a deal and not worth the hassle. Incrementally, she's letting them get away with more and more. She first tied them up to the fence, and then she started letting them run free in the yard. Then one time it was raining, and she asked me if it was okay for them to come into the house for a bit and just stay in the kitchen. And now they're just let free rein. It's in the terms of the dogs that she's making herself too much at home. I find random chewed up tennis balls in the yard, and she set up a couple of metal bowls near the back door. The other day, I found a bag of dog treats in the pantry that I'm assuming is hers. Probably the worst of all is that she takes them out to do their business. I don't even want to think about all the dog do that would be in my yard and bags the poop. But then she leaves the poop by the front door next to her handbag and dog leashes, so I normally come home to a few of those bright green bags of her dog do at my front door. It's just so gross. I want to say something to her, but my husband tells me not to. He's saying that we need her to look after the kids and that it would come across as offensive to tell her that. He said it's just minor things and to not really worry about it. We only need her until the kids are school age anyway. He's quite serious, and we've been arguing over it quite a bit. Am I the idiot for telling her to stop making herself so much at home? I feel like she's just done it bit by bit so we didn't notice, but looking back, she's basically starting to slide into the household. Not the idiot. She's an idiot because you gave her an inch, and she took a marathon's worth of miles. She's taking advantage of you, and it's completely inappropriate as an employee. Let's look at this in terms of regular workplace etiquette. All workplaces will let you leave a jacket in your work area or a small amount of food in the fridge, so those are reasonable accommodations. Would an office allow dogs when it's been previously communicated that dogs aren't allowed? No, making yourself comfortable is not a big deal, but bringing dogs is a no. You need to communicate that to her. She's utilizing your lack of limits to her advantage. If your husband won't listen, you might need to have a direct conversation with the nanny yourself. I'm a femme 32, currently 8 months pregnant with our first child. My husband and I, like a lot of couples, debrief after our work days. My husband works in a high-touch, high-interaction job, so we usually say our hellos, make dinner, and then eat separately so he can wind down a bit. Then afterward, we sit in the living room and chat. My wife, Polly 32, has mild neurodivergence, untreated ADHD, which means she tells, let's call it, branching stories. She'll get bogged down inside side stories, background stories, and details that add nothing to the core story about her workday. That's usually fine, but I've noticed it getting worse to the point that by the time she's done, it's time to watch a show and go to bed. I mean, I'm spending upwards of an hour just listening and adding and oh wow because she says she gets even more distracted when I ask questions. I brought this up with Polly, and she said that I'm asking her to mask her disorder, and that's just how her brain works. I get that feeling, but I'm starting to feel like I'm a side character here because she takes up all the airtime we set aside to debrief. Here's why I might be an idiot. I said, well, we all change our communication styles based on context, right? And she said that's different and that masking is not code switching. I just want some time to talk about my day too, but I don't want her to feel bad. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. There's no reason why you guys can't take turns telling the day stories. Also, you say she's untreated. Well, she needs to get treated. It sounds a lot like your wife really enjoys when other people accommodate her divergent behaviors, but really hates having to manage them to adapt to the more typical behavior of others. She has to give you some path forward that's not essentially you just need to deal with my crap. My mom does this constantly. Is this a neurodiverse symptom? I don't think wanting to share your life with her is expecting her to mask. This may not work with your wife, but I tell my mother I'm losing the thread of her story, so can she get back to the main path? Another thing I do is time box her. I let her know I have 30 minutes to talk when I call her. Yes, she does 99.98% of the talking. And that's fine. But at the 25-minute mark, I interrupt her and tell her I only have 5 minutes left. This is one of my biggest pet peeves. Get to the point, people. You're not asking her to mask anything. You're asking her to work on her disorder to make things easier. You're not trying to get her to pretend she doesn't have the disorder. Not asking her to lie about it and not asking her to hide it. You're asking her to try different things to curb it. Like my family members counting to 3 when they were about to lose their temper, or asking a person with memory issues due to PTSD to write themselves notes. Learning how to participate in society is okay. Story 4. A woman conflicted about her sister wanting to use her address fraudulently to enroll. I have a sister, Jane, who is a single mother to her autistic son, James. James was having a hard time at his school. His school district is severely underfunded, and they do not give a crap. The schools where I live are pretty nice, and my neighbors who have kids said that they have a lot of great programs for kids like him. Since I had extra money, I decided to offer to let Jane and James move in with me so he could go to school here. Since he started, he's been doing great here. The teachers and aides are much more engaged than at his old school. They've been helping him work through some of his behaviors as well. While my other sister, Leah, is being weird about it though. The school that James attends has better teachers and aides and has a lot of other activities and resources, and in general, it's just a lot nicer. Leah and her family live in the same town that Jane and James used to live in, so her kids go to the underfunded school. Now she wants to send her kids to school here too. However, they're not taking any out-of-town students, so Lee wants to use my address and send her kids to school here. From what I've seen online, it looks like it can be considered fraud to do that. It's a fairly tight-knit community. People would figure out what we were doing and that they didn't live here. So I don't want to take the risk. Besides, Leah's kids aren't having trouble in school. Their school may not be the best, but they're doing okay. Still, Lee thinks it's unfair that I won't help her kids get out of the crappy school by using my address when I let Jane and James move in so that they can go to school here. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. There are ways to enrich children's educational development that don't involve fraud. Your sister needs to look into that. It's great of you to provide your nephew with special needs resources. He really needed you. You've shown kindness and support within your means, and it's okay to set boundaries to ensure the well-being of all involved. Jane and James moved in with you so he can legitimately attend school in your district. No fraud involved. Is it fair of Leah to pressure you to commit fraud, aka helping out so you have to lie and cheat to be fair to her kids? This is a false equivalency. Leah can get better schools for her kids like Jane did, move into the district. It's fraud, and the last thing you want is to be held liable for your sister doing something shady. I highly suggest that if your sister is talking to you by phone over this, you text her your refusal to allow her to do this, and you keep a copy of that on the cloud so that you have proof that you said no to her suggestion. I'm telling you this because as much as I know you might not want to think this, your sister sounds like the type who would go ahead and use your address anyway. She sounds like the type who would falsify a utility bill or whatever.